What does it mean to master the game of life? Like any game, it requires a fundamental understanding and application of the rules. But living in today's on-demand society is making this nearly impossible as our attention is increasingly being fought over and monetized by others. Will Moore's mission is to help you hit the reset button by providing a new set of game rules based on time-proven universal principles and modern science to gamify your life by making it fun and addictive to replace your habits in the 5 core areas of your life proven to lead to true happiness. Ready, player one?
Hello, everybody. Super excited today. Welcome to an episode of Gamify Your Habits, where we talk about using behavioral science, universal principles, the latest in technology to help you trick your brain into wanting to take those actions that are good for you, that you know will make you happier, that are based on these universal principles. You can't cheat the system, people. There is no cheat code. There's no contra, up, down, left, right, A, B, A, B. By the way, if you just got that joke, or not that joke, but that little whatever it is I just did, I love you, because that means that you're an 80s kid just like me and you used to play Contra and you know the cheat code. But in real life, there is no cheat code, guys, because you got to follow certain guidelines, certain principles. Life's a game. Just like any game, you got to learn the rules. You got to understand how to power up your avatar, how to level up your life, how to gain that experience so that you can get from one level to the next level to the next. Because think about it this way. There's that show, The Lottery, Ruined My Life. I don't know if anybody's ever seen it. Awesome show if you want to get a study in human beings and just how predictable we are. There's a reason there's a whole show built on the fact that the lottery ruined my life, because it's like an oxymoron, right? It's like, what do you mean the lottery ruined your life? You're supposed to win the lottery and it's supposed to be the best thing ever. Well, if you haven't earned it, if you don't know what to do with that money, if you haven't developed certain habits in your life, it's going to ruin your life. There's a good chance that your Uncle Bob is going to trick you, steal all your money, leave you destitute. And unfortunately, I mean, it's not a joke, but a lot of these people end up dead. So the point is, even if you could warp from level 1 to 100, there's no fun in that. You haven't earned it, and you wouldn't be able to sustain it. So you got to do it slowly but surely, reducing the friction, making it easier, making it more obvious, making it fun, making it rewarding, satisfying, all these wonderful things. And that's where behavioral science comes in. So today, if our guest hopefully is able to join us, we've got Mr. Aaron Baker. Aaron, if you're there, just request the join live, and you should be able to just go ahead, and then I'll see that and I'll be able to accept you. In the meantime, let's go ahead and take some questions and stuff. Fence that goes up fast falls down fast. That is correct, my friend. Oh, here he is.
Build it right. You got to have the right tools and experience points and level ups in order to be able to sustain yourself. So we unfortunately live in a society where it's like everybody wants to just snap their fingers. Hey, buddy.
Hey, good morning.
How are you? Thanks for joining.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Super excited to have you on. You're a father, you're an athlete, you're an author, keynote speaker, and ambassador for spinal cord injury. Why don't you give us your story and kind of let readers know a little bit about your background and how you ended up here trying to help the world build momentum?
Wow. Well, yep, that's loaded. I'm a recovering quadriplegic, formerly a professional motocross racer, so an athlete. A lifetime ago, that was nearly 24 years ago, I sustained a career-ending injury. I broke my neck, rendering me a quadriplegic, which means I was paralyzed from the chin down, so my entire body. And I had a very grim prognosis. At the time, the doctors didn't think I would be able to do very much for myself. Literally a 1 in a million chance of having any form of movement, being able to feed myself or care for myself. But that was a long time ago, and we have since been able to prove that prognosis incorrect. And I set out to rebuild and redefine my life from that paralysis. And in that process, I've become a student of my body, very mindful of my movement, very in tune and grateful. And since then, I've not only taken steps again, and I can feed myself. I have become independent. As you said, I'm a father today. I'm still an athlete. I've been able to do some incredible things despite this adversity. Essentially, I've transformed the challenges into an adventure. That's essentially what my book right here is all about, The Rebellious Recovery. Transform your adversity into adventure. I've ridden a bicycle across the country a couple of times. I walked across that valley. I climbed the stairs of the Willis Tower and U.S. Bank Tower, largest skyscrapers in the country.
So basically, you have done more than 99% of humans that have perfectly good legs.
I'm just having a time, Will.
Let me just interject here. Oh, I always find this so fascinating because I interview so many interesting people, and inevitably, and I've talked about this before, but you're like, it just keeps happening. So it's like, this is definitely, it's fact. And it's like, I want to get your take on how to actually describe this phenomenon. But bottom line is, unfortunately, I feel like it takes people a really traumatic incident to wake the F up. And then it's like their life is like so much better, right? And people look at you, I look at you, and I'm like, dude, this guy is killing it. Like, he's living a better life than 90, I call it the 1%ers. And I would put you in that 1%. Like, you get it, what life's about, and you're doing it, right? You're not caught in this just hovering above rock bottom. Like, I know life can be better, but this is my lot in life, and this is my job, and this is what I do, and this is where I live. And, instead, you're just going out and you're just taking the bull by the horns and you're riding the wave. So, I mean, why do you think that this happens to people? And tie that into your own experience.
Oh, you're spot on, Will. It's that pressure, that real challenge that forces us. It actually activates us to become the highest versions of ourselves. I think we're too soft these days. Modern society is insulated from real struggle, right? That's why, our forefathers, our ancestors were so gritty and built such an amazing world, because every day they were faced with real adversity. Today, most of it's in our head, right? We live comfortably. Everything's at the the snap of a finger. We can access all the information right here on these phones.
Totally.
We're not really faced with significant challenge. We have to actually seek it out. So when this trauma or when this real adversity occurs, it actually turns on something primal inside of us. Like, for me, my greatest fear was to have a career-ending injury, to be paralyzed. I thought I wouldn't want to live pre-injury. And in the moment that occurred, the moment that I came face to face with my mortality and the gravity of the situation, all I wanted to do was live.
Yeah, that's it. You just hit it, right? It's something that until you've been through it, you can't recreate it. Although it's funny, I had a guest that his whole mission in life is to try to create that moment for people so that they, not by having a near-death experience, although he had one and he saw the light, right? It's almost like people that die and then see that, whatever's out there and they come back and they're like, it's there, I see it. And everybody else is like, is it there? But this is it. I mean, it's like, it's all the same type of, like, something primal is just activated in the brain and it goes, whoa, what the F are we doing? We got a short amount of time here. Let's not waste it. And then it's like, we're all in. And it's interesting. I haven't followed up with him. It's been about a month or two. I want to keep tracking him because I wonder if it can be created. Like, it'd be great if it could. We could all just have an injection of boom. Okay, there. Now you got it. And your brain just literally, your mindset shifts from this like victim to this growth owner that's like, let's go. I don't know. What do you think? Do you think that it can be recreated somehow? Or do you think, like, I put it this way, in a short amount of time, or do you feel like it has to be done the hard way where people basically say, okay, like, I really want to make a difference and change my life, and then it's like a slow but sure process year after year after year to get there?
Well, I too had a near-death experience early on in this. I flatlined. I remember that moment vividly. I remember the disillusion, the immediate interconnectedness to all, and I became you, right? It's that proverbial raindrop that lands in the ocean that instantaneously I'm a part of the whole. And so I awoke with that awareness. And so I have a tendency to want to push people in front of a bus, right? Like to activate them immediately, to turn them on. And I think I'm reading this book right here about the rise of Superman. It's all about flow state by Cutler. And he's talking about how do we activate that quickly. And I think it can be based on environmental scenarios, right? take somebody out of their dark home in front of their TV and put them in the middle of the desert. Put them out in the middle of the desert. And now all of a sudden, you need to survive. And things start to get real clear. Like, what are the priorities? Where's my safety? Where's my food? How do I get out of here? Like, just the basics of being alive and surviving all of a sudden changes the brain chemistry, and it turns you on to the primal aspects of being alive. And I think that kind of like stimulus in a safe way could be really great for people that have mental health issues. You know, recently I've been thinking a lot about this lately, Will, because two of my close friends back to back committed suicide. These are young people, early 40s, and their worlds became so bleak that they felt the only way out was to leave the planet. And to me, I feel like shit. If I could have just wrapped my arms around them and taken them out of that darkness that they were in and put them out into a beautiful place on the planet, and we just get down to being here and now. Breathe with me. Smell this air. Take in this beauty. Let's just get back to being alive.
So getting back to one of the things I like to do on this show is, rather than just talk about these things that we know need to be done, and clearly, I mean, we've identified, like, we all need to, have the proverbial slap in the face to sort of wake up out of this, like, what we think is important. I took the Yale happiness course, a really interesting course. And one of the words that I really got from that was miswanting, just a buzzword that she kind of used throughout the course, which is basically that how we are obsessed and think that we want certain things, right? Like you said, you're sitting in your living room with your TV and you've got this and this device and this, and you're, before you know it, you're focused on all these things that actually make you less happy. Right. And it's like, how do you slap yourself to kind of go, okay, well, what is that thing that's actually going to make me happy? And that's what I focus on. And to me, it's these core areas of our lives: your physical health, your relationships, your mindset, your emotional health, your career and your finances. These are all areas that we all share. And it's like, okay, well, what's going on in those? What are the habits that you're developing, that you've currently developed? One of the only ways I know how to do it, to kind of that proverbial slap, is I do this exercise called the Back to the Future exercise, where I used to call it the funeral exercise, too morbid. But basically it is going to your funeral and sort of saying, what do I want said about me? And that's just a really quick way to sort of trick your brain into going right to what matters, right? Like, are you going to say, do you want people to say he had like the coolest iPad? He had like 30 streaming channels and he watched like 40 hours, 50 hours a week, no, right? Like, and you do it for each core, your mindset, your relationships. Like, he was a growth owner. Like, there was no obstacle that he couldn't overcome. When he failed beautifully because he learned from it and he kept going, right? His career, like he or she loved what they did. They took their strengths, the things that they were the best at, and what they absolutely loved the most, and they married it in this perfect way, and which allowed them to just kick ass and take names every day. And no, not every day was a picnic, but in general, they loved what they did and they felt lucky to be alive to do it. Like, and then you kind of like go through that, and then you go back to your current state and you go, yikes, am I doing any of that stuff? And then that's when I start to help people rebuild habits. But that's kind of a cheat code, but it's still, that's not as good as having what we're talking about, in my opinion, which is like, just right. I like the idea of like just taking somebody, plopping them into a desert, and then all of a sudden it's like, what's important?
But it's experiential, right? Like that's real. That's really real. It's not something that you're conceptualizing. They say in Stephen Cutler says it in the book, the kayaker just gets into the water down the river and it has to deal. The skydiver jumps off the cliff and has to navigate. Like, this is cheat code for flow. Like, he's talking about environmental, right? We have to adapt and survive based on environment. And my point earlier is we're just too damn insulated.
Totally. 100%.
So we don't have to really survive. We make mountains out of molehills in our minds.
Yeah. And it really is. I mean, I like that you use the word primal, because I do feel like what's happening here is our brains are conflicted with we're still evolving as human beings, right? Like, I mean, our brains, the way they were, from the start to now, are still evolving, and maybe we'll evolve out of this dichotomy we're in. But right now we're still in that like fight or flight, like I want to not get eaten by the saber-toothed tiger. And so I need to have as much things, as possessions, and I need to, like there are these primal things that we still are doing. And, you look at why we're so obsessed with money and things, and it's like, is it because of that? I think that's very likely that's a big part of it, that we, our brains just haven't gotten past that point, that now that we kind of have everything we need, we no longer have to fight so hard for it. And we should be focusing on these things, these other things that actually make us happy. Whereas, because we're not in like, just like living out in the woods, constantly in threat of being eaten, but that's how our brains are still operating.
I think we're getting mixed signals, right? We're sitting on our couch, and the stuff that we're taking in is triggering the flight or the fight, but we're not really in that danger. So all of our chemistry is fired up, ready to actually act, but there's nothing to act on. Right? If that same chemical process is going on in the real world, and you need to run or you need to survive, then it's all working correctly as it should, and you're in a state of like just being well. But
right.
Here we are in this room, and I'm taking in all this crap that's got me on edge, and my chemistry is ready to rock and roll, but here I am just sitting here. That's a terrible cocktail that induces a lot of like unnecessary degeneration.
That's right. Your brain is that's exactly right. Your brain is just really.
That's why we have all these ailments. We're aging, and we're sick, and we're creating all this dis-ease. Because I'm sitting here dis-eased, but not actually doing anything.
Right. Well, but you actually are, right? And so that's that difference between that 1%er that gets it and then goes, what am I doing with my life? Like, what is life about? Like, what do I want to have said about me at the end? Like, you're naturally doing that because your brain, it kicked in at a certain point. Your mindset shifted, and it went from like, right. It's interesting. He said that was my biggest fear, because I remember thinking that was my biggest fear as an athlete too, to have a crippling, and then to hear you right after that say, well, but now it's the greatest thing that could have ever happened to me. I mean, you didn't use those words, so don't let me put words in your mouth, but it seems like
would not change a thing. Will, it is
wouldn't change a thing, right? I mean, that's just so cool. So let's get more into some of your habits that you have developed. And maybe look back, if you're able to look back before you had this incident, and kind of look at the person you were, some of the habits you had, and some of the ones now. Maybe what are the biggest discrepancies or the biggest habits that you've shifted and changed in your life?
Sure. Well, prior to my injury, I was just a child. I had no roadmap. I had no framework. I had passion for my sport, and I had, loose routines around physical training and activities, and, a race schedule and all that. But if I were to gamify my life, I had two different games that I'm playing. Pre-injury, I'm a pinball game, the proverbial ball, right? Ricocheting off of circumstances and events and just bouncing through life. Post-injury, I play chess. Every move means something. Premeditated, mindful. It's multiple steps ahead with every move. Everything stacks on top of each other for some type of outcome.
And that goes to me, that's mindset right there. That I call it a growth owner versus a fixed victim, right? Like the first one you're talking about is that fixed victim that just lets the world have its way and is looking at, and this grabs them and this grabs them, and oh, I should do this. And it's just like people that are trying to monetize your attention and steal your soul for money, you're letting dictate your life. It ain't going to end well. Versus the second is that growth owner that's like, all right, let's party. Like, I got everything within me to kick ass, take names. I am the designer of my game. I am going to control these chess pieces and decide exactly where I want to go. And you know what? Maybe I don't get there right away, but then I learn from what happened and the mistakes and failures, and I figure out a way to get there eventually.
And that's just the process, fall in love with the journey. You've got these cliche sayings, but they're true, right? Like, the journey is beautiful. The emotional roller coaster is real. Allow it. Be willing. To carry on.
100%. I love that answer. And now, are there any within that? So that's like your broad in general. This is how you look at life. Within that, what are some specific habits maybe that you feel that are really helping you build momentum regularly on a daily basis that you've developed?
Bottom line is I've made my body a business. My health and wellness is priority number one. I have to manage my body and ensure that I have the vitality to be of use and service, to provide value for others, for my family. So I've created a wellness space in my home. I ensure that my space is tranquil and serving. I've converted my garage into a wellness center. I have all my modalities that I can wake in the morning early and master my day with physical activity. I'll wake up and I'll have warm lemon water and,
Okay. So let's do your morning routine. Do you mind? Can we do that? All right. So you wake up and what's your routine?
Yeah, between 6:30, wake up and have a warm glass of lemon, honey, and salt just to kind of get me going. Then I'll have my cup of coffee. I'll go into my garage. I'll do some physical activity, exercise. Depending on how much time I have in the day, I'll allot 1 to 2 hours of that morning for my exercise. I have a hot sauna, so I'll do the sauna. From there, I'll get into my office. I have the opportunity of working from home because I do have my own business and I have a 2.5-year-old daughter. So, I've built my life around that for quality time so that I can watch her grow because it's going fast.
That's great. Yeah, I got a 3.5-year-old boy. Well, I got 3 boys, but right. So being home, I work from home too, and the mornings are so great. And during the day, once in a while, I'll go out and I'll give a little squeeze when they're here. They're not always here, and then at the end of the day, it's just such a great to be there and be around, just because I know how many dads aren't, and I've got a lot of friends that are traveling all the time, and it's like, man, it would drive me nuts to not be able to squeeze my kids every single day.
That's just, what do I value most? Right? That's the question that I have to answer for myself, and that's time. Right? Time and love, and all you can do with that is share. I came to understand that in my near-death experience, time and love. And so I ensure that I've built my life around that, and I get to share my time and my love with my daughter, my wife, my family. Most of my family is within a pretty close proximity here, and then to carry out the rest of my day, just to finish my day, I'll take my calls, my emails, my work, and then I'll go out and I'll run errands with the family, or we'll have an outdoor activity, teaching my little girl how to ride a bicycle. Nice. And then we'll wrap the day up around 6:30. We always have dinner together. We always watch Jeopardy at 7. We keep it consistent.
Jeopardy, man. Yeah, that was a routine I had for years and years. I've gotten out of that because it doesn't work out for timing wise. Now I put my kids to bed right around, or we start the bath process around that time. But that's a good one, right? Keeping your mind. You had also answered, I'd asked you this pre, you had said becoming grateful, being grateful, graceful, and resilient. Let's talk about the grateful aspect for a second, because to me, that's one of those things that I used to scoff at a little bit before again, it kind of goes back to our previous conversation, like before I feel like I really got it. And it's almost like once I was like proverbially slapped, whatever the word I'm looking for, proverbially slapped. It was like a light bulb, like, holy cow, being grateful every morning. And now it's part of my morning mantra that I say what I'm grateful for in my head as I'm habit stacking when I'm in the shower and I'm doing my stretches. But it's like so huge. And I have this little acronym that I use throughout the day, CBRP, catch, like when I'm starting to get dwelled or stressing on something. And it's CBRP. It's C is for catch, B is for breathe, R is for remind and reflect, which is where the grateful part comes in, where I'm like, well, what am I really getting stressed about here? Like, my life's pretty freaking awesome. I'm pretty lucky. I've got my health. I've got my kids. I've got, and then I pivot. And the P is for pivot, where, okay, now what can I focus on that I can actually do something about, instead of just thinking about this thought that's just hurting me and doing no good, but sucking my energy and my time and my soul. So like that, but that grateful part, it's magic, right? Like when you in your mind say, because you can't be unhappy. It's like, again, it's like a little mind hack. You can't really be unhappy when you're grateful. and you're talking about all these things. But what we do is, as humans, I think going back to the primal stuff we were talking, we tend to always be wanting more and being unhappy. And that's kind of the human dichotomy that we have. It's like we constantly are in this state of, I want more. But it's like, but if we can remind ourselves, like, more isn't the answer. Before you got on, I don't know if you heard, I was talking about the lottery ruined my life stuff, which is a show. And it's kind of like, right, if you were to just have all this money dropped on your lap, actually it wouldn't work. There's a reason there's a whole show named after that, because you haven't earned it. You haven't taken the journey and earned the upgrades and all the things needed in order to be able to successfully take that money and integrate it into your life in a way that you become happier versus worse off.
Right. It's a beautiful gift when you really, truly, with all your heart, say thank you. My mantra to my body every day is, thank you, body. I love you. I am grateful. You work hard for me. You carry me through life. Like, this is a highly intelligent community of selves that, I am so grateful that I get to experience. And so I acknowledge it. There's a reverence for every breath, for life, because I have lost it, right?
And this is coming from people, this is coming from somebody that does not have this, what we have. You can't walk around and jump and do anything like that, but yet he's every morning talking about how grateful he is. So what is, when you put it into perspective and you think about all the things that you're complaining about and are unhappy about in life, the fact that, you have your health and you have two legs and you can do whatever you want. I mean, you can as well. I mean, you're climbing mountains, you're doing all these things, and that's the point. Like, sky literally is the limit.
Our minds are the limit.
Our minds.
Our
Yeah.
minds.
I don't even, you know what? I need to change that saying. I don't even like that. There is no limit, right?
Well,
our minds are the limit. I see what you're saying. Yeah, yours is better, because it's basically like, right, your mind, if you let it limit you, it will. Good one. Well, dude, this has been amazing. Gotten so many little nuggets. I always like to to finish out, and, we've kind of already talked about some of your habits and some of the things that you're super grateful for. Is there any one last habit that you want to share with people that you think that you've developed that would help them to kind of move the needle in their life? I mean, we've hit upon so many awesome things, being grateful, just really going down through the list of things you can do. But is there anything in particular that we might have left out?
Well, I'm teaching and speaking about a methodology that I apply, and I've loosely framed in the book. It's called BASICS. It's an acronym, BASICS, and I've broken it into two parts, essentially being before doing. The BAS stands for the breath. A is attention or awareness, and S is surrender to the moment. So in order to just be at any time, when you feel that stress welling up, you're sitting in traffic, you're anxious, you can't sleep, anytime, turn to the breath, turn your attention inward. This is where gratitude arises, reverence. As you breathe, you are aware, and just surrender. This doesn't imply giving up. It just means to be present, just for a moment, being, and then activate. Now start doing. I is the inspiration. Now the breath becomes an inspire. So breathe in an invocation, an intention. What do you want to do? What do you have to do? C, right, is the choice that you make, the commitment to that choice, to move, to do something. And S is to share that, to be vulnerable and transparent with another, to be of service. That's where purpose finds you.
That's what I'm talking about. Now that, boom, somebody can take that acronym and they can go use that. To me, acronyms are the best because, like I said, I have my CBRP. I have another one called CORE that I use every single morning as part of my mantra. Commit, obstacles, and rewards. When I'm talking about what are my priorities for the day, I think about, okay, what's my commitment today? Like, what am I going to get done? It just really helps to just put the things that are the most important into focus so that I can move the needle. And then what are the obstacles that can get in my way? And then what's the reward? How good am I going to feel? What am I going to give myself? Sometimes I actually give myself a reward if I finish. But right, acronyms, I mean, it's such a good cheat code, guys, because what they're doing is giving everybody's different. And so certain acronyms are going to hit differently for certain people, and you got to figure out the one that presses your button, your start button, and activates you. And he just gave a fantastic one. I've given several on the shows previously before. You can go to my website. I have some. I'm sure you have. And by the way, how can we find you if we want to learn more about you and people want to?
Over social media, I'm Aaron Baker. I'm AaronBaker.com is the website full of information. The Rebellious Recovery, again, recently published. I'm super proud of this. RebelliousRecovery.com on Amazon. Find me there. I'm an open book, man. Literally, please reach out.
Oh, man. Well, Aaron, thank you so much for being on the show. This was fantastic. I really appreciate everything you're doing, and congrats for being a 1%er, my man. That's pretty awesome.
That's it for the Gamify Your Habits podcast with Will Moore. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, and be sure to visit moremomentum.com to learn how you can gamify your life.